All right, so I'm sure you guys have questions.
What really caught my attention was that how you build that chemistry between the two characters, and how that chemistry that you can feel through the screen, how that chemistry changed through the
Three films.
movies. Yes.
You know, I don't know. The chemistry thing is like, I guess Richard in the casting process probably
Yeah.
just
Finding two
that's why
people
he was
who-
doing the casting.
Yeah.
He tried us out with like different people. Yeah, he's like, does she work with this guy?
Yeah,
and
who
this guy?
looks good together? Who seems to click? Yeah.
I think chemistry is something.
You don't control. It's it either.
But change it in some way through the movies. I mean, you also feel that.
Our dynamic. I mean, chemistry. I don't really know what chemistry is. It's unexplainable. It's kind of like, when we work together. I mean, we get along. I mean, we do love each other in all three. We all love each other. Not like the work session. Don't worry. It's like really we're writing. I'm saying love as like a sharing kind of creative process, And I think that chemistry is also coming from that. Like, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Ethan. I think he sort of has a little bit of respect for me. And no, but I think it's, you know what I mean? It's like, and we get each other. Like, we understand each other. And I think that's the first step, maybe, And then it's chemistry. It's like chemistry between you and your boyfriend, between you and your friends.
And they're good actors. They're good actors, too. You can act that. That's important for those two
You
characters.
can fake chemistry, too, in some films.
Well, you did it great, and thank you
At
so much.
faking it. We did good at faking it. Thank you.
You can fake sincerity.
Yeah,
You got
we
it,
can
May.
fake
You can do
sincerity
it.
I
amazingly.
don't know,
well.
those long dialogue scenes, that would be pretty hard to fake. I mean...
No, but I think, a lot of the acting is about, like, making... I mean, we have a chemistry as friends, I think, But I think transforming that chemistry into a relationship chemistry is where, I think the acting is involved. It's like we turn this into something else.
I think
Are you going to say something funny again? I can see in your
Okay,
face
I
you're going to say a joke again.
I was gonna say that if I feel like we're playing a weird game where somebody's trying to make us say the word chemistry as much as possible, but anyway, it's just a never mind.
I'd like to congratulate all of you on developing a series of romantic films that resonates with as many men as women. That's not always easy to do. But my question is, the last film, the second one, Before Sunset, could you talk about the final scene? I think that's the greatest ending of any movie I ever saw. How you came up with the final line, "Baby, you're gonna miss that."
That's
plane."
what you're. I love the ending of that movie so much. It's like a little Zen koan or something. And what's, I was talking about the fear of doing a third one. It's like I almost didn't want to break the spell of that ending. It's such an odd ending, and so I don't know. Sorry, but Rick.
But you were asking the...
Who came up with that line?
First
How
off,
did you
thanks
develop
for
that scene?
the male thing. Yeah, we've always tried to keep this as much as possible, and it's really hard to achieve a feminine masculine balance of as close as you can get to 50-50 as possible. And that's it's hard to kind of get that POV, I think, in most movies. So Julie has a strong not only feminine voice but masculine voice too, and I think Ethan and I contribute also to the our feminine side. So we're all kind of a mix in there, but that's always something we're going for. And as far as the end of the first movie, the second movie, we had that in the outline. It's not like something we discovered along the way. It's
written early on, yeah.
And it was really based on a lot of our writing process is just completely digressive and telling stories, and just we're trying to focus it on the work, but we really have permission to talk about anything, and we cover the gamut of politics, sex, art, culture, just anything that's on any of our minds. And Julie was actually telling that particular story about Nina Simone had just passed away, and she was talking about seeing her in concert, and so much of that, the last bit about that was
I remember really
actual-
vividly being in a
we
room.
were sitting across the room and kind of
Julie was telling the story, and Rick goes like this. She's telling the story, and Rick just goes like this. That's the end of the movie. and that's kind of how it started. you know?
And then the line when Julie says, "You're going to miss that train." That plane, that I don't think that was scripted so early. I think we came to that later. Like we had to earn that one, I think. But I'm not sure. It might have been there.
I don't know. I remember. Yeah.
The first movie, we work on these as we're doing them. We're working on weekends and the night before, and this one wasn't an exception. The end of this movie was something that shifted around quite a bit. You'll see. It wasn't. It's to get the right note, you have to kind of have lived it and not just rehearsed it, but maybe filmed it. So if we're lucky enough to film in order sequentially, which we have been to some degree, particularly on the first film, that works for us,
When you guys sat down to write this one, how did you know what was authentic to Jesse and Céline? Were there a lot of plot points that you threw out, or?
Yeah, well, it's also differentiating our lives from Jesse and Céline. Once you work through their backstory, what they've been doing the last 9 years, then you can feed into that. But I think we're each other's sounding boards. If we throw out something and the other two don't like it or don't respond, we just move on to the next subject.
It's a tone thing. I think there's a certain tone that Before Sunrise set, like a mood that happens, and then Before Sunset built on that tone. And there's certain things that some of us will work on that we'll have a lot of passion for, but the other two will feel like it's just not the tone of these movies, and it's somehow right.
Yeah,
Was that
absolutely.
articulate
We
when I
all
go like
have.
that?
We leave 95% of our material never makes it in the movie. That we bring forth all this stuff, and if it doesn't resonate with the others, it just doesn't. It doesn't fit in the movie. So, But we're always encouraging and pushing one another to. Like I said, we spend a lot of time just talking. But if you say something and the other two people go, "Hey, that's funny," that should be often the person who's saying the story or whatever isn't necessarily thinking, "Oh, I'm saying something to be in the movie." But if your two cohorts go, "Hey, that's really good. Let's talk more about that." Then, you're off and running on something that might fit in the movie somewhere. But, most of our stuff obviously doesn't.
Richard, I'm kind of a contemporary of yours, a few years older, have two young sons that are almost teenagers. I look at your career, I really kind of look in their lives and where they're going and their careers, and very aware of that. And I look at you, and somewhere in your 20s, you're working on an oil rig in Houston, and in years hence that, you're working with people, one of my favorites, Jack Black. How does one go from there? I guess you were probably somewhere in your 20s. At that point in life, with Ethan, I was acting fairly young, and Julie has a background with parents. But how about you, making that break at that point? What was the tipping point?
I think I was always a writer. I came from a place in East Texas where making films or even being very creative wasn't really a career choice. But so I came to it a little later. But yeah, I had a job. I saved up my money. But I think by about age 20, I had sort of discovered cinema. 20, almost 21. And so I just dedicated myself to it fully. I mean, you can't get anywhere in this world unless you're all in on whatever it is you do, so I don't know what to say except, you dedicate your life to it, whatever that is, but I found myself just, watching 600 films a year and reading books and editing all night and shooting film. And, I just kind of dedicated my life to film. And if I wouldn't have been able to make my own movies, I think I would be running a movie theater or be a distributor. There's any number of things I would be doing still cinematically related because I love it so much. So I just happened to get lucky and, whatever things have worked out to whatever degree for me. But I think it was just going all in on following that, but discovering it, leaving myself room to figure out what I was meant to be doing, maybe.
Hi. When Before Sunset came out, I thought it was one of the greatest screenplays ever written. And I think all these years later, I believe that even more. And I think there's so much wisdom about love and relationships in that movie. I was wondering if there's a line, a set of lines, or a scene that's made any of the three movies that when you wrote it, that you were like, wow, this is it. This is so true. This is, love.
I can kind of answer that question.
Yeah.
Only it's a scary question to answer because it's inherently so self-satisfying to say, this is the moment we did that I really thought was brilliant. You know, I mean, it's a question built to, designed to make us fall. But I will say that there was a moment at the very end of Before Sunrise when we were in this kind of dive motel room late at night, right before we started shooting, and Rick really wanted to print out the script for the crew the next day, and we'd just been working. I learned how to juggle. That's how where bored I was. I mean, we were not bored. I mean, just pacing back and forth in this room, talking and nervously playing with these oranges, and I got on some extremely, as Julie would say, extremely pretentious riff about divine God kind of conversations. I'm 24 and I'm talking about God, and Julia was like kind of just so bored listening to me talk on the couch, and finally she said, listen, if there's any kind of God, it happens in the space between us whenever two people connect. That's the only thing that I've ever felt. That all this shit about God is stupid, but that's space between us. And Rick and I looked at each other like, oh. And it's a wonderful moment in Sunrise when she says that, and it comes in something that it was a thing there where Jesse says something.
I believed it then.
Jesse says some stuff that a lot of people have found unappealing about Jesse, but I think it's very, very true of a lot of young men, and where he shares a rather uncomfortable truth about himself to Céline about kind of wanting to achieve something more than he cares about family or life. I mean, he just kind of says, I sometimes think I'd just like to be good at something, and she basically has an answer for why that might not lead him to a great life. And it's one of my favorite moments in that movie, and it's totally 100% Julie Delpy.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming.